It is now 6:30, and I am calling the meeting to order for the Redevelopment Commission. If staff will please take roll call.
Tyler Hudgens,
Present.
Ryan Hamilton,
Here.
Bo Bigelow, Tyler Jones,
Here.
Peter Shaka.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Having a quorum, we will go ahead and move into our communications from citizens. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters not on the agenda. The commission's response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Do we have any requests from communications from citizens?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have any requests from communications for citizens.
Having none, we will go ahead and move into our administrative items. We will consider the approval of our meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on April 17, 2019. Do I have a motion or edits for the Redevelopment Commission meeting minutes from that meeting?
I motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on April 17th, 2019.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Having a second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And seeing none opposed, the meeting minutes from April 17, 2019 pass. At this time, we will now move into our public hearing section. I will open up the public hearing officially. Items will be heard at one public hearing, at which time anyone wishing to comment on a public hearing item may do so. Comments will be heard from those in support of or in opposition to an item. In order to comment on a public hearing item, you must fill out a public comment form, indicating the item number in which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the commission. After the public hearing, the commission may act on all items not requiring additional staff, public, or commission comment with a single vote. Staff, if you will please come forward for item DR 18-174, Scott Residences.
Thank you, Chairman and Commission members. This is DR 18-174. This is the Scott residence. Staff is pretty excited about some of the redevelopment happening in downtown, and this is just another one of those parcels. This is located on the north side of Vaughan, east of Elm Street is the highlighted parcel there in red. It is adjacent to a single-family dwelling unit on the east, and then the building on the west is part of the condominium project that is to the north as well. The property is zoned multifamily low. The applicant, in conjunction with that zoning district, is looking to develop a duplex building on this vacant site. So it would be 2 dwelling units on the 0.22 acre site. There would be a total of 2,172 square feet of livable space per unit. It is a 3-story building with a private open space in the backyard at the ground level, and then patio space on the upper 2 levels. So quite a bit of private open space within each unit. In terms of the site, it is accessed off of Vaughan Street via a private driveway. There is a garage for each unit that would hold 2 cars, as well as driveway parking spaces and on-street parking spaces. In terms of landscaping, they are providing landscaping consistent with a couple of trees that exist on site. There's a Palo Verde that exists on site, and you can see at the north portion of the site, and as well as a Chinese pistache along the street frontage. They're looking to add some Chinese elm and mulga trees around the perimeter. This is very similar to what the Redevelopment Commission saw at study session. I don't believe any changes have been made to the landscape plan since this came through the study session review. In terms of the elevation, when this came in for study session, you may recall as part of the packet, we provided some different elevations, and as staff was working through some modifications with the developer. So we brought forward at the actual study session the revised drawings and received some really good feedback from the Redevelopment Commission that they were happy with what they were seeing in terms of colors and materials. So we don't see any changes here. They are still proposing the smooth stucco, some panel siding to add some accent features. The standing seam metal roof and railings are all consistent with kind of a modern architecture, as well as the glass garage doors. In terms of the site elevation, we see some of those same materials used throughout to carry with the 360-degree architecture that we're always looking for. And then at the rear elevation, again, we see that hardy board as well as the smooth stucco. Here you can see on the bottom floor, those patio spaces, the private patios. Because this is in the multifamily zoning district, they are required to provide common open space to their residents. So rather than providing private backyards for each unit, they've got a little private cove there, if you will, underneath the upper patios. And then the remainder of the space is common open space to the units. In terms of colors and materials, as I mentioned, they have smooth stucco, the standing seam metal roof, and then siding looks like it's missing from this elevation, but they have that hardy board siding as well as CMU wainscoting on the bottom of the building. Staff does recommend approval of this request for a design review. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Are there any questions from the commissioners? Okay, thank you, staff. At this time, are there any members that wish to, members of the public that wish to speak on item number 2? Okay, seeing none, does the applicant wish to say any words? Okay. Seeing none, if there are no other public comments, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the findings of fact and approve DR 18-174, the Scott residences.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Having a second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that passes unanimously. Staff, if you would please come forward for item number DR 18-221, HD South.
Oh, that's not it. Sorry, I'm having a little technology savvy issue right now. Is it? That button? Oh, all right. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Bubenheim. I'm presenting DR 18-221 for HD South. You guys saw this come to you before at the March study session hearing. So this is an expansion to the current HD South, also called the Gilbert Historical Museum. It's located on the southwest corner of Gilbert Road and Elliott Road. At the site I highlighted in red here, so you'll see the existing museum, and there is an existing storage building located on the southwest of the site. So the proposed new building will be located directly to the west of the existing museum. So this will include a 6,500 square feet multi-purpose building, as well as some upgrades to the courtyard area within the two buildings, some landscape improvements, and some updates to the on-site parking. So currently the parking is located off of Elliott Road. They do have an undersized parking because it's pre-existing. So they do have a shared parking agreement with Gilbert Public Schools to the west, which is outlined in those rectangular areas that show that there is adequate parking for the venue. And the parking on site is going to be restriped and some landscape improvements. For the landscape plan, this has been updated since you last saw it, so there is now additional landscaping provided along Elliott Road as well as to the west for buffering between the Gilbert Public School and the on-site. So we have the landscape palette has also been updated to more closely follow the heritage landscape palette. In the courtyard, the applicant has requested to deviate from that landscape palette, so their request was as it's not seen from the public right-of-way, they'd like to use different materials that are kind of a response to maintenance in a courtyard, as well as provide adequate shade trees. So they are providing a little bit different materials for shrubs and trees. Staff is acceptable to this request since it is not seen from the public right-of-way. For the colors and materials, when we saw this at study session, there was also some comments about the white, which was called a frosty white at the time, that it wanted to make sure it was matching the Gilbert Public Schools, so that did get tested. It did show up a little bit different shade than what was expected, so I provided the color board up at the dais for you so you can look at that. So the top will have the previous, and now they have gone with a shoji white. So it's updated on this color board seen on the PowerPoint slides. So they're going to have the main body of both buildings reflect this new shoji white color. And there is an accent of balanced beige, and there are some green screens that'll have the darker downing earth color. And then this building's also pulling materials from the surrounding buildings, such as Gilbert Public Schools for the CMU block and the terracotta tile. And then there is a copper accent, which I'll show you in a minute, that's being used internally in the courtyard. So for the elevations, they look fairly similar to what we saw at study session. The only update to those is that they did provide the scalloped parapet at the corners that more closely ties into the mission style architecture of the current museum building. So that is shown on these updated elevations. And then they have these gateway entrances that they're pulling from the first building over into the entrances of the site. And just a moment, I have a second PowerPoint that's not this one. All right, I apologize. Both of them were still on there. All right, and then the applicant has provided to show a detail of what is updating with the main museum building. So they are going to have the main body be that shoji white as well. The trellises with the terracotta tiles, those areas will have the balanced beige, and then the wood vigas are going to have that downing earth color. So both buildings will be updated and be matching. And the architect has provided some 3D renderings to kind of give you an idea of what it's going to look like. So you can see in the back, the mouse doesn't work, but the front, you're looking at the intersection down, so looking towards the southwest. The museum's going to be in front of you. That pergola shade trellis structure is part of the Gilbert leadership improvements that have recently been completed. So that was completed with an administrative DR, and that's shown on the site plan as well. And this will be internally in the courtyard, so you're seeing some of the features of the courtyard, such as a water feature and some landscape areas. And then we have the main entrance with the copper is along the curving of that side. And then this is just another view of that courtyard. So the multi-purpose room, it does include a multi-purpose room with partition doors, so they can close that off, a full-size kitchen, as well as bathrooms and a conference room. So this will be able to be used by the museum if they need to expand into that site, and they'll also be renting this out to people for events to kind of bring in a revenue so they can host events here. And they can use the courtyard and the multi-purpose room. And then just on the left there is their trash enclosure. So that's really when you drive into the entrance, that's what you're going to see first. So we have that kind of matching the green screens to give it more an architectural feature. And then lighting has been updated, so they are providing some lighting along the building as well as under the canopy patio that's part of the multi-purpose building and within the landscape of the courtyard as well. So if I have any questions, I can answer them. We are requesting that you recommend approval of DR 18221 HD South with these following 2 conditions, and the applicant is here as well if you have questions.
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Through the
Peter?
chair, I have one question. The first question is, or maybe 2 questions. What's the age of the original building, approximately?
That is, I want to say, wrote it down. It's either 1903 or 1913. 1913.
And with that, do you know if it's on the Registrar of Historic Places, either with the state of Arizona, federally, or the state?
Yes, it's on the National Register of Historic Places, so it's actually the only one in Gilbert.
So in the state of Arizona, in downtown Phoenix, what is that organization called? SHPA, or there's an office for like that kind of that watches the preservation, like in Tombstone or downtown Chandler, making sure that old buildings look and remain old, and if they do additions to old buildings, that there's no confusion for the visitor or future people to say, hey, is this part of the old building or is this a new building? So I think in one of the elevations, it's pretty distinct. There's a new part. So I didn't know if that was something that was shared with SHPA or that office, the State Historic Preservation Office, or if it's necessary. But on the last two slides, seeing that internal courtyard, I think me as a visitor, if I didn't know the history, I wouldn't confuse the 1913 building with the new one. So I just that was kind of a general question, if there's any requirement there that the applicant has or the staff needs to ask about. Just more curiosity.
Sure, thank you. I'm not too familiar with that or facility that they're using in Phoenix. We did kind of briefly discuss this at the initial start of this expansion process, so the architect might have a little bit more information, but we did ask if that would have to be reviewed, and it didn't seem like it was going to be an issue.
No other questions? Okay, thank you, staff. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on the item, including the applicant? Okay, seeing none. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion.
Chairman, I motion to approve item 3, which is DR 18-221 HD South.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, having a second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that unanimously passes. And that will close the public hearing. And we will go ahead and move on to our communications. At this time, there's no report from the chair. Do we have a report from our council liaison? Seeing none. Do we have a report from any of our commissioners? Seeing none. Do we have a report from our staff liaison?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to share with the members of the commission that tomorrow the 9.1 acre site north of the Power Line Trail, south of Juniper and west of Gilbert Road, known as the North Anchor and the Redevelopment Plan, will go before council for approval. Staff negotiated for minimums on this site, so at no time in no event will the project total less than 500,000 square feet. The project will include, at a minimum, 100,000 square feet of Class A office, 25,000 square feet of retail, and 10,000 square feet of office, 150 key boutique hotel, 250 units of multifamily, 1 parking structure for the office, retail, and hotel uses, and a second parking structure to be used for multifamily and hotel. The project will also include the Commons Park, which was identified in the redevelopment plan as a catalyst project to spur growth within the Heritage District over the next 10 years, and the northern portion of the pedestrian-only Paseo. Additionally negotiated was a $350,000 contribution made by the developer to the town to use at its discretion for improvements within the Heritage District, as well as improvements to the Western Power Line Trail Canal, including $150,000 towards public art. 1 phase of development with the certificate of occupancy commencing in Q3, Q4 of 2021, and also the ability to negotiate the price. So upon council's approval, we have 30 days to negotiate, and the price would be at a minimum $5,332,000. So we look forward to hearing council's input tomorrow.
Awesome. We're quite busy. This is good. All right. With that, we will go ahead and adjourn our meeting. Thank you.